If your Instagram engagement right now is trash, you're struggling to get likes, comments, and even the most important thing in everything in your coaching business is leads and clients. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how to fix your engagement on Instagram in 7 days or less, reset your engagement to be able to attract high quality followers, comments, likes, engagement, which is then going to be able, if you follow the system and process, you're then going to be able to turn that into high paying, consistent clients and leads for your coaching business. So let's dive into my whiteboard and run through exactly how you can fix trash Instagram engagement in 7 days or less so you can move forward with your coaching business, right? So first of all, as you can see from my amazing diagram here, there's a few big things we want to look at. We've talked a lot about this before. Effectively, what we need to keep in mind is that the only way we're ever going to get seen on Instagram, and the only way we're ever going to get seen on social media and for our own online coaching business, is one simple thing we need to keep in mind is this: we need to have attention, right? The easiest and the best way to get attention and the most efficient way to get engagement and attention with Instagram and social media is by getting your content to convert and speak to the right people in your kind of network and audience and all of these things, right? If your content isn't converting, if your content isn't bringing in kind of engagement, that's going to be the very first thing we're going to look at, so you can move it, you can fix it, and you can grow exponentially forward as well, right? One of the first biggest mistakes coaches make when it comes to kind of how they structure their content and why they struggle to revive the engagement is this, right? So one of the very first things is this. So the very first thing is their content is overly confusing at times, right? There's no clear takeaways. There's no clear takeaways, and it's trying to speak to everyone. And when you try to speak to everyone, you end up speaking to no one. So this is one of the very first things coaches kind of make the mistake doing with their content, which is what ruins and destroys their engagement, completely destroys it, right? So this is super important to look at. One of the easiest ways you can fix that to start off with, in terms of having a clear message, clear takeaway in terms of who you're speaking to and what the core takeaway is make sure you have a clear hook with your video, like a really clear polarizing hook that stops people in their tracks. So if you think about when you're filming your videos, when you think about how you're creating them, one of the very first things we want to keep in mind is what I'm about to say in the first 3 to 5 seconds. Is it going to be so strong, so attention grabbing that someone's going to stop and listen to me for the next 50 seconds? We need to picture people as if they're on a train, as if they're on a metro, as if they're on an escalator, somewhere really busy when it comes to short form social media content. If it stops them, if it's a verbal kind of like you saying something, if it's a verbal hook, you know, it has to stop them. If it's a visual hook, if it's you throwing something, if it's you messing around with other stuff, it has to stop your audience and it has to be able to grab them. The easiest way to do that is to really obsess about the hook and make your hook and make the first 3 to 5 seconds of your video 2 things, right? What we want to do with our content when it comes to the first 3 to 5 seconds in particular is have this thing called a negative hook. Right, how can we stop people in their tracks and how can we get them to listen to the rest of what we're about to say? An easy way to do this is to speak to the problems that are on their mind right now. So if they have problems, if they have pain points, frustrations, what are they? And how can we call them out within the first 3 to 5 seconds of a video, right? If your audience is fat loss and they struggle losing weight, how can you speak directly and super clearly to that pain that they have? So if they struggle with the like body fat around the midsection, that's a big struggle for them. How can you say that in the first 3 seconds that gets people to think, this is my problem, but this guy's going to help me, so I should probably listen, you know, as an example. Super important. The last thing as well to keep in mind with the first 3 to 5 seconds as well is we need to look at ways of having them to be polarizing. Again, I mentioned this already, but if we try to speak to everyone with our content, with our message, it's going to speak to no one. It's not going to pull people in, right? One of the best things you can look at when it comes to your content is to be polarized, and do not be afraid to push certain people away, because the minute certain people get pushed away, others will get drawn in, and the type of people you're going to work with will get drawn in, and you have highly qualified leads, highly qualified clients coming to you. For example, this channel here and the vision and kind of why this channel is built is very specific purpose. It's specifically for coaches and service-based businesses that want to use social media, that want to use AI to grow their coaching business. I'm only creating content for those people, right? Everyone else I'm not going to follow, but that means that I can go so much deeper at such a bigger level of depth, and be more helpful, be more useful with my content than if I try and create content that's just surface level, that talks about motivation, money, relationships, love, like all of these things. It's just going to be super surface level. And it also means that I can't be an expert in that one area, right? So this is super important there when it comes to growing your coaching business as well, right? Super, super important. So in terms of fixing your content, that's the very first thing I would look at here, is having a really, really strong hook with every piece of content you create. So the hook of the hook could be a video. The hook of your video could be your captions. If you do this, for example, if you do like a Instagram post, which is just a picture. So if you do, as an example, you might post this. You might just post a picture of you on the beach. I'm not going to draw this because I'm not very good, but it might just be a single picture, you and your girlfriend on the beach, or you and your boyfriend on the beach, right? The hook of this video is going to be two things. The hook is going to be the visual. So what's going to stop people for picture and graphic like this is going to be the picture. So people are going to stop and they're going to look at the first thing. They're going to look at the photo. They're going to look at the post and then decide if they're going to continue. So that's the very first thing that's going to be a hook. For example, one of my clients knows every time he posts a picture with him and his girlfriend, his missus, he's tested the engagement on this. Every time he posts one with him and his girlfriend, he gets really good engagement on that particular type of content. So he knows strategically when it comes to launches for his coaching program, he knows he can use that picture as the copy, as the hook of the video to grab a huge amount of people in at the beginning from his audience, and then have the copy be super specific to who it's speaking to, what the launch is, what the opportunity is. So what that does is it grabs a large people at the top, and then that eventually funnels into leads at the bottom. So, that's one variation. So just getting you to think differently about hooks, right? People think a hook of a video is just, the first 3 seconds of a video, but it's anything that stops people, So that would be the hook. But another thing you want to look at when it comes to all of this stuff is when you make a caption for a post on Instagram. So let's say, with my amazing diagram here, let's say this is your photo. So this is your photo for Instagram, and this is going to be your long text, right? Most people just use GPT, like ChatGPT or AI, to come up with the captions, and this is okay. But if it's something specific, if you're doing a launch, if you're doing something that you really want to sell people into, this is also sales. This is also a piece of copy, and even more important than all of this, right? Like here, this is a hook. Like the very first line of your long captions is a hook. We run a lot of ads for our guys inside the program that do maybe free, that they hit their first 5K per month online in the business. They want to scale, right? We look at boosted reel strategy and we run that for them, right? So for them, we've split tested this a lot. This is super important. So the very first 3 to 5 kind of words of the caption are super strong, super clear, and have a really clear call to action or hook. It's likely going to stop people and get people to read and continue the content, right? This is super important to look at. Another example might be a carousel post. So carousel posts obviously on Instagram now are up to 20 posts. So I'm not going to do this all the way through, but let's say a normal person will probably have 9 at total at the most, right? Most people don't really think about carousels having hooks, but effectively your hook on a carousel post would be the first slide. So if it's a really strong picture, something that grabs people, that makes people want to double check the piece of content to continue watching, would be a hook. But also Instagram does something really cool with carousels. If they show it once to your followers, they'll probably, it's a very strong chance, it's a 73% chance they'll re-show that piece of content to them a second time, right? So on carousels, you have an opportunity to re-hook people if the first time didn't work. So if Instagram shows them the original piece of content once, it doesn't convert, it doesn't get them to like or comment or whatever, they'll likely show your second slide of the carousel as well. So this is other ways you can hook people, and another way you can think about it, even if it's not for Instagram reel, right? So every piece of content you create will have a hook, right? So you might be creating content which is carousels, you might be creating just single pictures with long captions. All of these types of content have hooks that you can pull people in. If they're really strong, they speak to pain points. If they're negative hooks, even more importantly, they'll perform really well and likely get you leads, engagement, and more engagement in general. On average, our clients that join a program, just improving and optimizing their hooks, sees an engagement about like a jump in engagement to around 37%. The very first thing we look at when clients jump on is reviewing their copy, writing their captions, writing their content planner. We optimize their hooks, their engagement just on the hooks, the overall engagement, the entire engagement on social media jumps up by 37%. So it's not rocket science, but it's one thing that a lot of people neglect. They use stuff like ChatGPT, they use stuff like Claude AI to, all of these different stuff, which is okay. Sometimes it works, but it's probably one of the most important things you will ever do when it comes to content, right? Because if you can't get people to stop and listen to you, the rest of your video, the rest of your content becomes completely irrelevant, which is what a lot of people miss out when it comes to hooks and moving that forward, right? So this is super, super important there. The second thing as well, when it comes to moving things forward with your conversations and kind of engagement in general, is the content often becomes super confusing for coaches, right? They try and waffle on about too many different things, or they try and over educate with their content. This becomes too confusing, too messy. People zone out and they don't listen, right? What we want to do instead is think about what is the story that we're talking about in this piece of content. What's the story block and where are we going? If we have one clear story in place, one clear takeaway that we want to talk about, it'll become much easier. If you get stuck on this, if you're confused, think about it as a single format, right? If you listen to any kind of childhood story, it's the same. There's one clear kind of hero, one clear villain. It's one clear kind of divergent point that something goes on. Most people, most coaches, most mentorship programs, which is mind-blowing, don't even teach this properly. They just say, talk about whatever, show your expertise. If people don't listen to you, if you don't hook people and they don't listen, you can't sell to them, right? So your story is super important. Have one clear story, one very clear takeaway in mind. What are you talking about? What's the story? Make sure this is super clear before you even touch your phone or your camera, before you even touch filming. Super, super important. Can't really stress it enough. And make sure when you're having your story in mind in terms of where are you talking about, what kind of stuff are you going to be talking about, make sure you can have a 7-year-old understand the story that you're about to tell people. So if you say, here's why you're struggling with energy, here's why you're struggling to lose body fat. Okay, cool. Here's why you're struggling to lose body fat. One thing a lot of people do, one thing my client Philip did before he enjoyed the program is he was eating late at night. This was affecting his metabolism because of this reason. We fixed this one thing, it helped him move forward. Clear hook, the hook of the story connects to the story, but the story is also one congruent piece of kind of content, right? You're not going about a story, you're not talking about your client Philip, how he's improved his relationship with his wife, how he has better energy, better sleep, better mood, better confidence, he earns more money. Like, all of these things are good to have, but you can't talk about it in one piece of content, which is 60 seconds, because you're going to lose people, right? You can talk about the same client Philip in 3 different types of content and how he's achieved different things, but just have one clear story, one clear struggle, clear goal, clear pain point, and how he's overcome it. Make things a lot easier. The next thing people make a mistake with is the value, which is really where people go wrong with content a lot of the time, right? So if your engagement is trash on Instagram or social media in general, you're probably trying to talk about too many different things in one piece of content. We have to remember people don't have that huge of an attention span, especially when it comes to Instagram and social media and TikTok and Instagram and like Facebook, all of these platforms. So with every piece of content we create, we really have to think about what's the one lesson I'm giving people from this video? What's the one piece of value? What do I want to hammer home from this video, right? Don't talk about too many different things. Don't talk about calorie deficits. Don't talk about progressive overload. Don't talk about training intensity. Just have one very clear message, one very clear takeaway, and just hammer it home, right? So it's going to make it much easier. So if, for example, we're going to go back to fitness here, and that's back as an example, but if your hook of your video is, I have this big problem, which the big problem I have, and the big problem you're creating a hook is like, okay, we have a client, we have a client recently joined who does training online coaching for dogs and improving dog obedience, right? So their program and her program for dog obedience training is really simple. It's really easy to understand. It's like, you join a program, your dog's disobedient. We're going to give you kind of online coaching. We're going to show you how to coach your coach your dogs to improve their obedience, and you're going to move forward, right? Super easy. So when it comes to the content, we have to keep it super simple. We can't say, if you have this puppy, he's scratching the table, he's peeing everywhere, he's doing this. Here's how you can take him from super disobedient and fix everything. We can't do that because people aren't going to listen. It's too long of a video. We need to really narrow it down. So the pain point could be if your dog is running off leash, one hyper-specific problem, here's how you can start training him to solve that issue. One hyper-specific problem and one hyper-specific lesson and one hyper-specific value. The video becomes intensely more valuable, incredibly more specific, and way stronger than if you try and tell them everything in a 60-second video. The reason I'd never do that is because there's too much context. There's too many different stuff going on, too many moving parts. People get overwhelmed, they get confused, they lack motivation, and that's why they never do it, right? That's why people need coaches, right? We're online coaches. We have a service-based business. If we try and overload people, if we try and overwhelm people in our content, they're going to think this wasn't very useful. I'm more confused than before I watched this video. I'm not going to bother watching. This is why your engagement tanks. Right? The next thing we want to look at with all of this is authority anchor, right? I touched on this already. I alluded to this point already. But what is your authority anchor? What is your AA here? Like, how are you separating yourself out from everyone else? Like, a lot of coaches book these calls from these videos and complain on the calls. They're like, Plamen, the industry is too saturated. There's too many coaches in my space. There's too many fitness coaches. I'm going to give up. I'm going to pack it in. There's too much going on. Yeah, there is too much going on. But the only way you can stand out and not give up in the space is make sure you're the authority and make sure people can really trust your expertise, right? A lot of coaches in the space, unfortunately, have been misled to think that if you just create a personal brand and you just talk about your dogs and your family and your school kids, and not your school kids, but your kids and how they go into school, people are going to buy into you. No one actually cares, unfortunately, that your hobby is gardening, or no one really cares that you're collecting Pokemon cards on the weekends and you go for long walks. It's okay to talk about these things, but it should be a small percentage of your content. The bigger percentage of your content should be getting people to see you as the trusted advisor and the trusted expert that you can help them with, right? Easy ways you can do this is just share and just talk about what are you teaching your clients? Like, why is your coaching program so good? Like, why do you believe it so much? What was the struggle you had? If you don't have many clients, what was the struggle you had? How did you overcome that struggle? How did you achieve the results that you achieve now? Why are you passionate about coaching in the first place? Like, all of these things are going to be really powerful here. And if you're not doing this, have conversations with people you want to work with. Like, message people on Instagram that are following you, that are engaging with your content. Just help. Be helpful, because you're going to get feedback in terms of what works, but you're also going to get massive amount of momentum and confidence, because the more you help people for free to start off with, if you're struggling, the more you're going to help people in your DMs and your content and all of these things, the easier it will be for you to have confidence, have momentum, to be able to exponentially explode and grow things much faster, right? That's the next thing here. And it ties into the last thing here as well, as we wrap up on here, but the proof layer, right? Like, how are you adding and how are you implementing all of that proof into your content? Right now, people want proof in terms of how you can help them, and they want to see you talking about how you've helped other people do it. These can be minor and smaller bits of proof, right? These doesn't have to be these huge before and afters. It doesn't have to be someone was 150 kilos and now he's 75 kilos. He's doubled his body, half his body weight, over half his body weight. He's achieved amazing results. This is huge. It's amazing. If you have this, amazing. You know, you're laughing. If you haven't got these huge results, the proof aspect could be screenshots, you messaging your clients. How are you feeling after week 1? How are you feeling? You've lost 2 kilos. Plummet, I feel amazing. I feel so much lighter. I can, I feel more confident with my wife. I was gonna say an inappropriate joke. I didn't, so it's good. I feel more confident with my wife. I'm having more energy. I'm working harder, and I'm working harder at work. I'm doing all of these things. I feel amazing. That's a voice note, right? You'd be surprised how much proof you can get and how much social proof and confidence you can get from your business just by messaging your clients, the first few clients you have, and messaging people, engaging with your content. You can then turn that into more content on the back end. From a social proof perspective, you can get your interviews from your clients. All of these things are just going to move things forward much faster with your coaching business. The proof can also be case studies. The proof of your content can also be you doing case studies of other successful things going on in your industry and just giving your experience. There's a really cool video. There's a really cool creator that's been popping up on my Explore page recently. I'm going to just rant on a little bit about it. It's absolutely genius. And I'll try and find it and do a breakdown in a future video. But it's absolutely genius. He's dressed up as a doctor, right? I'm going to assume he's a doctor. He has the doctor hat and the vest and stuff. I think he's a plastic surgeon on my Instagram short, on my YouTube shorts. And he just reacts to videos. All he does, and he's got millions of followers, millions of subscribers. All he does is he just reacts to health viral TikTok videos, and he just gives his opinions, right? He's a plastic surgeon. Some of these are quite silly. He did one where someone said, if you have and I've remembered this is how memorable this TikTok video was. One of the videos he was reacting to was, would a bullet stop? Would a breast implant stop a bullet? And he was just reacting to that video, and he's no way it would stop it. I know this because I'm a plastic surgeon, and I can show you this. I've done this on so many different kind of examples. Here's why I wouldn't do it. This is technically also proof, guys, because if you're creating content of you reacting to things in your industry and you're saying, this is what I agree with it, this is what I don't agree with it, this is probably what's wrong, people are still going to trust you from it because you're giving your experience and your expertise from that piece of content, and you're giving your knowledge. So there's so much information out there. There's more content, more information on social media right now more than ever. So if they have one trusted advisor they can go to, which pulls their eyes in terms of, okay, this is the viral video, this is a trend, this is the thing I've been kind of considering. Should I try this diet? I follow this coach, I follow this personal trainer, I follow this fitness coach, follow this dentist. He's going to tell me if I should do it or not. I like him. This is how you're going to build the trust, and this is how you're going to build the proof over time as well. The last thing here as well as we wrap up is have more call to actions. Have very clear call to actions with your content. The very, very last thing is have more clear call to action, right? More clear call to action. So as you take people through this process, as you take people through this 6-step funnel and stage with your content, at the end, or within your content, scattered in your content, have these call to actions. So you might have a call to action within the first 10 seconds of the video. The call to action might be, here's 5 tips to lose. Please, 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 by the way, do not film this video. The hook is not good, but as an example, the video might be, here's 5 ways to lose body fat, but stick around for number 4 because the best tip is number 4. It's simple, but it gets people to watch. It increases the watch time from here to number 4, right? You've already increased the view time. Another hook could be another kind of call to action for this could be, you know, here's my favorite gyms to train. I saw someone do this. Here's my favorite gyms to train in London. If you're new here and you want to build muscle, you probably want to follow me. You know, the call to action in that video is very short, very much at the beginning of the video. But it still works. It still gets people following. It still gets people thinking about following. It still gets people thinking about watching more of the video. If you do it in a particular manner, if you do it where the call to action isn't super obvious, you're not saying, follow me right now, it's the most important thing you'll ever do in your business, or it's the most important thing you ever do in your life. People don't want to be sold to, but if you tell them why they should do it, and you have a good enough reason, they're probably going to follow, they're probably going to like, they're probably going to comment, they're probably going to save your video. But the video has to be good, it has to be clear, it has to be concise, it has to be helpful to people you're going to work with. So this is super important to look at. It's going to make growing your business so much easier. It's going to make moving things forward so much easier. I hope you take value from this video. It's a bit different to what I usually do. I've just had some thoughts that I wanted to talk to. It's been a long day. So I hope you take value from this video. If you want to see more whiteboard style content like this, then make sure to hit like and subscribe so I know to post more. If you want to work with me one-to-one with building, growing and scaling your coaching business, there'll be a link as always down in the description. Before I cap and close these spaces, people that are a good fit would get to speak to me one-to-one on the call to audit their business and see if I can help. If I can help, I'll probably try and sell you my program. If I think it's a good fit and I think it can help you. So that's my pitch, that's my full disclosure. And if you find this helpful, I hope to see you in here in the next video. Peace.